What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Shot of Sports podcast. Grab a drink, grab a snack. This is your weekly dose of sports, where we'll break down and do a deep dive on the world of sports. Whether you're a casual fan or a diehard, we're here to bring you the latest, the best analysis, and the hottest takes. I'm your host, Jalen Nicholson Bourne. Um, like, share, subscribe, and even comment for us. Even tap the notification bell on the right on the side so you can be notified whenever we drop so you won't miss one. Today we got on the show Chris Pittner. He's graduating soon and he's he what does he walk what you walk next Saturday?
Saturday, yep.
So he's a senior right now at Wisconsin Whitewater. He walks the stage next Saturday, and now I introduced him to the real world on his LinkedIn post.
Yeah, that was a long post to make. I basically wrote a mini essay for that thing.
Yeah, I remember when I walked the stage last year that it came full circle because now the real world starts, and you don't get to see all your buddies and all your friends and stuff no more, and now it's over. It's just wow. He's been on 91.7 The Edge. Was it for 6 years?
It's 6 years. I was on all 4 years of college, all 8 semesters in some capacity. One of them I was only on a couple times, but nonetheless, it was a good long ride for sure, and I'm just happy to be able to be a part of it for so long.
Yeah, hey, he got this podcast now, so he's gonna have something to do over the summer, and for as long as we run this thing, we're gonna be running this for a while. So, congratulations to him, and ready to see where he ends up at.
Yeah, thank you,
So,
Jalen.
no problem. So, we're gonna start our first topic. Can the Warriors win without Steph Curry? The Golden State Warriors got annihilated last night, 93 to 117. It's a totally different look without Steph out there, clearly. But rumor has it he may not be available until like game four, even maybe five, maybe even the way he was talking around when he was at shoot around. Was it yesterday while they were having shoot around at like 11 a.m., I believe. So what needs to be done for this team to even be have a chance to even win this series? Heck,
There's
not even win
anything
at
I've
all.
learned from watching them without Steph, it almost feels like a ragtag group of guys, if you know what I mean, for Golden State. It almost feels like they're being held together by duct tape in a way. So they're going to need some of their role players, guys like Quentin Post. I don't know if he was injured. I wasn't able to watch the game, unfortunately, last night. They need Buddy Hield to be really their big score. I think Brandon Podziemski has to step up a little bit. Draymond's going to have to carry a bit more of the offensive load than he's probably used to. Jimmy hasn't quite been the playoff Jimmy that I think a lot of people remember from when he was in Miami and he was the legitimate number one option. But overall, they really just need those role players, guys that they spent early draft capital on, like Jonathan Kuminga, to really step up and play well for this team because Minnesota's a really deep team. They got a lot of talent on that team. Nikhil Alexander Walker had 20 points yesterday, 7 to 13 shooting. He hit 4 threes. And it honestly felt like the perfect storm for Golden State to take game one. I don't think we're going to see something similar to that the rest of the series with how bad Minnesota shot from three. And it felt like a lot of those shots were open in that game, too. They just weren't falling. This is going to be a defensive battle. And the role players are going to need to step up for Golden State. That's the bottom line. Otherwise, they are not winning this series because if Steph comes back and they're already down 3-1, they got to be perfect the rest of the way.
Yeah, that is true because Jimmy Butler had, I believe, what did he have? He had 17 points. Even though he was pretty efficient, it just didn't feel like that 17 points was, like the way I'm gonna just tip my cap to the Wolves the way they came out and they played. They just clearly dominated from the start. They were up, I think, what was it, like 13 nothing, I believe, when they
Well,
started the
it
game.
was 29 to 15 at the end of the first, so the game was essentially decided by that point.
Yeah, Randall came out. He had a double double, 24, and he had 11 assists. So when he's actually assisting the ball, that's going to be a problem when for any team. Especially for them on the defensive end. They also had three guys that scored 20 plus, four guys that had 15 plus. So it was like, it's really about impact because when you look at Steph Curry and what he brings to the Warriors, the fear factor. It's the constant movement. It's the constant, the ball doesn't stand still. And then Draymond actually gets off because why? He's wide open. He's open. He can find the cutter. There's more spacing when he's on the floor. When you look at the way it was without him, they can't. It's not like they're spacing. They don't have a lot of space. It's a lot of one on one. It's a lot of ISO basketball. They try to move the ball, but the ball isn't moving efficiently as well like it used to be with Steph out there. So really, their whole game plan had to change in order for them to even have a chance at winning this game. And they made a run or a stand at one point in like the end of the third quarter. They cut it down, I think, to like 10, I think, or 11, something like that. But when Steph is out there on the floor, it's the ball doesn't stop moving. And that's their winning formula because they're so small. They can't go into the paint like the Wolves can with Rudy Gobert or with Julius Randle, or even the way Anthony Edwards plays and he just rocket ships to the basket. Like, there's no way for them to be able to what's the word? For them to be able to I'll sort of kind of like mimic what Steph brings, because you can't mimic what he brings. You can't, bring what he brings, but you have to try to adjust to the way he does play, though.
Is it a fair question for me to ask whether Jordan Poole would still be beneficial for them in this spot? Like, they traded him 2 years ago, I think it was now. They traded him for Chris Paul. Chris Paul didn't really work out for them. Poole's kind of doing his thing over in Washington, but they're not doing well as a team either. Obviously, we're gonna talk about the lottery in a little bit, and they're towards the top of the lottery odds. I think Jordan Poole to play that like discount Dollar Tree Steph role could help them in this situation, especially when Steph goes down in a playoff series and you don't really have anybody that's going to be that guy that runs around, that tires the defense out. I feel like Jordan Poole could have been that person, but he's not there anymore because of some chemistry issues in the past. And another thought is if Draymond Green could just shoot a lick, like at all, he's never been he's had flashes, don't get me wrong, but he's never been like a reliable shooter. I think if he was able to develop even a slight 3-point shot to where he's shooting over 35% on I don't know, 3 attempts a game, it could have helped them so much because it forces that one defender to get pulled up to the 3-point line.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, does Jordan Poole, does he, help this team? I believe he does, but they can live without him because they've made it this far without him, right? They beat Houston. Obviously, Houston isn't the greatest. They're a very young team, and they obviously use their veteran stuff, and they use they use their playoff experience to beat them. So they won game one against the Timberwolves with Steph Curry only playing one half, but Buddy Hield was getting off. So really, the X factor, like we said about Jordan Poole, is Buddy Hield. Like, Buddy Hield did shoot well. He shot 4 for 9 from three, 5 for 14 from the field. Draymond gave you 9 points. Butler gave you 17. It goes to show you that Steph Curry is very important because Quentin Post had 0 points and he played 3 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with. I don't know what happened with Quentin Post. I think he must have been injured or something because him only playing 3 minutes but starting is really odd. He he's a bit of a stretch five. He can shoot the three ball a little bit, and other than that, I feel like another big issue for this team, and it was exposed a little bit in the last series, and I think Minnesota is going to do a better job of it, is the lack of a consistent, reliable big on this team. Trace Jackson Davis has shown flashes in a pan, but he hasn't really done anything super significant. Kevon Looney's always kind of just been there. He's he's good for getting rebounds. He doesn't really do much else, though. He never developed an offensive bag at all. He's never been a reliable scorer or anything in that regard. So I think if Minnesota is going to win this series, which as of right now looks like they probably will just due to the Steph Curry injury, they'd be smart to run their offense through Randall and Gobert, I think. Even if Gobert has a limited offensive bag himself, he's just so much taller than everybody else on Golden State. He can just use that to get easy buckets.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, it's tough because when you look at Jordan Poole and what he brought to the team, he just really brought a lot of shooting, and he shot the ball. He wanted to play like he wanted to be Steph so bad that Steph moved without the ball. He ran without the ball. He passed. He played defense. Jordan Poole cannot play a lick of defense at all. He can't play. He is like Luka Doncic when it comes to defense. He is getting targeted every time they come up the floor. So that's why he was, an X factor, because he came off the bench and scored. He didn't have to start. That's where Klay Thompson came in. You got Buddy Hield. He's supposed to take the reins of Klay Thompson, but Jimmy Butler is also bringing a kind of like an Andrew Wiggins kind of player. He brought defense and he scores, right? I think we should not overreact, because if they have Steph, this is a different game. If they have Steph add like 20, 25 points to this, they win this game. So it just showed that they need their star player, like every team does in the playoffs. You need your star player. And
biggest thing is this Warriors team, they mentioned it on the Game 7 broadcast between them and Houston. Their best shot at winning is holding their opponent under 100. And in this game, they gave up 117 points to Minnesota. You had to expect at least somewhat of a bounce back game due to how game 1 went, with just how poorly they shot, especially from 3. They shot 16 of 37, which is a much improved clip. It's not perfect or anything, but 43% is a heck of a lot better than whatever exactly they shot in game 1, where they started like 1 for 16 from 3. You can't expect that every game, no matter how tight your defense is. Teams are going to make some eventually. The law of averages can kick in on that. So you got to find other ways to put the ball in the basket. And I think this Golden State team, especially without Steph, Jimmy Butler is going to have to pull a rabbit out of a hat, I think, for the rest of this series to go if Golden State wants any chance to win. Because if Steph's going to be out till game 4 or 5, there's a chance Minnesota's already in the Western Conference Finals before Steph even gets a chance to play again.
That's true. The way that Steph Curry was talking at his shoot around, he was like, "This is new for me. He's never felt with that before. He's never dealt with that before. He says sometimes the body can't. You have to really evaluate what the body can take and what it can't. And this is a new injury for him, a hamstring, and he's never had a hamstring before and a hamstring strain before. And since he moves so much without the ball, you ultimately have to think and have to really put that into tuition and really think about, okay, he may have to sit for a minute because he runs a lot without the ball. What do you do when you run? You use your hamstrings. And what do you do from 3? He has to rise up and jump high and shoot from deep 3. So it'll be very interesting to see how they react and how they come throughout the series. But, it'll be interesting, though. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, a hamstring is not one of those injuries where you can just kind of play through it or run it off. You see that a lot in football. The biggest example that I can think of just from the Packers is Christian Watson. He's kind of had recurring hamstring injuries through the years, and it's really derailed his career in a way. So hopefully the same doesn't happen for Steph, but I think he's going to have to take that extra time, especially with how he plays, because, like I said, it's not something you can run off per se. So you really got to just hone in on recovery and make sure you're 100% before you go back out there, because hamstrings really like to linger around.
I can agree. So we're going to jump into our next topic, the NBA draft lottery, and the Pacers are favored to win the series now. Wow. The NBA lottery takes place Monday in Chicago, where we will find or have our draft order with the consensus number 1 pick, Cooper Flag, declaring and ready. Where does he need to land fit-wise and best team-wise, while the Pacers are now favored minus 190 to win the series against the Cavs, and that's unreal. I mean, minus 190, that's a big shift from where they were. They were plus 500-600 at that point at the beginning of the series, I believe. So now for them to be minus 190, that's favored that's being favored into a series for all that knows, or for the people that don't know, that's betting. But this is not betting advice. So where do you where does Flag where should Flag go? What's his best fit wise and best team wise for him as a player?
Skew, actually, first off, you're the Utah. You've worked with the Jazz before. You watched them play quite a bit. How do you think he fits into their scheme? Because I did not watch much of the Jazz at all this year.
Well, I believe with him fitting with the Jazz, it opens up the floor and really helps them on the defensive end because he can guard the best player. Um, he's like a Jimmy Butler or a Jay McDaniels defensively wise because he can actually he can guard the best player. I mean, he has really great defense. We've seen that on the college level, and it'll be very interesting to see. I believe that he can fit with us because Isaiah Collier likes to move the ball. He really he absolutely loves to move the ball. He runs. He constantly he's constantly on the move. He's constantly on the run. And if you looked at it, it really opened up Walker Kessler because um, Walker Kessler was being able to stay and rim protect or grab the offensive rebounds because while he's pushing the ball and they're able to really use the fast break. And Cooper Flag thrives in the fast break. He he can also play the half court offense as well if needed, but he really thrives in the fast break. He's running down the floor, he's coming up, and he uses his big, tall body frame to get to the line, or he just goes up and gets and ones. He's a big dunker, as we've seen that he likes to dunk. So who is the best person to pair him with? A guy that runs full speed very fast, a big body guard who can very run and loves to be in a fast break to throw lobs or to give nice passes so he can go up and get to the line. It will really open up the Jazz a lot if he was able to go to Utah, and I think Utah would end up being a playoff team if he was to end up coming here. He's that big of a deal and that good of a fit for Utah.
I think Utah could be an interesting spot for them too. They are the team with the top odds, although they do have a few tied at the top. The NBA kind of redid that about 5 or so years ago. Yeah, there's the graphic. I'll tell you, out of the three teams there, the one I'd want him on the least is probably Charlotte. I don't like the mentality or direction of that organization. I really don't think that they've really been a well-run organization since we've been alive pretty much. They've only made the playoffs a handful of times. They've had the worst record in NBA history. They have an debatably all-star player on their team right now, LaMelo Ball, and just nothing is happening there. There's not much traction. There's nothing really going well for them. Miles Bridges is not a very serious player either. He's kind of an on and off guy. They have hypothetically more talent than their record shows that they always do, and I don't understand why they struggle so much. So I think just for culture fit, that is not a spot he should go. I think Utah would probably be the best one for him out of the top three. New Orleans would be interesting. I don't know what they're going to do with Zion this offseason, just looking at the 4 and 5 spot. I think Philly, if he went to Philly, it would be really interesting because I could see them doing something to where, not to go all conspiratorial or anything, where the Nets are they want him in a big market. They don't want him in a place like Salt Lake City. And they try and get one of those bigger market teams to win the lottery because of how important Cooper Flag is for the league. He's one of the top American prospects in forever. And he's just such a freak athlete. A lot of players have grown up watching him. I think he could be the marketing piece, and having him in a big market would be so important. So that's my only concern with him going to, say, Utah, but I think he fits their scheme and what they want to do really well. Colin Sexton is a pretty athletic guard from what I remember, and I think he could be a really good facilitator for Flag too.
Yeah, I mean, hey, let's just be real honest. He fits anywhere if you think about it. He really fits. He fits anywhere. He's the best offensive and the best defensive prospect in the entire draft, hands down. It makes him the safest number one pick in all, and it makes him the safest number one pick in all of ages that we've seen since probably LeBron James or Derrick Rose. You know, but let me see that graphic again. If you was to send him to the Wizards, I think that would affect him badly because you have guard play that they're ball dominant. They like to score. They like to run. They like to score. They especially like what was his name? Bub Carrington.
On Carrington, yeah.
And then you got Jordan Poole, who they them two love to shoot. And then you got Sar there as well. How is he going to be able to fit into a team that loves to shoot? There's not enough passing. They don't have guards that really doesn't look to score like that, but assists. They don't have guards like that. The Jazz might have two of them. They got Colin Sexton. Yeah, he's a big time. He's an energy guy. But your starting point guard is Isaiah Collier, which he loves. He broke the rookie record in assists for the Jazz this season. Why? What place is not perfect for Cooper Flag to go? Spread the floor with Lowry Marketing, and then you got a big and Walker Kessler who cleans up everything. Literally, he had a 22 point. He had like a 20 or 20, 18, 20 some rebound game this season a couple times.
He was one of the top board men in the NBA this entire year. And the way I look at it too is the Jazz, despite struggling pretty mightily the last few years, they're just a few years removed from being looked at as a contender. A lot of these other teams that are in the lottery have culture problems, like the Wizards. They have not had a good culture for a long time. The Jazz have. When they had Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, they were a contending team. You look at a team like Charlotte, they've had a not good culture for a long time. The Pelicans really haven't had that great of a culture either. Philly obviously does, or they have in the past, but the thing about them too is like there's a lot of dysfunction there with Joel Embiid in particular, and questions about Paul George. And then going down the line, Brooklyn's kind of been up and down through the years. They had KD, Harden, and all those guys on that team. I think we're digging a little too far now, but Toronto would be really interesting too. The thing about them though is the strength is already in their forward spots, so they'd either have to run him at probably like a shooting guard or the two or something like that, or they'd have to offload somebody. And I think pretty much past there, the rest of those teams, maybe the Spurs get him, and that would be really, really interesting if that would happen, to get him and Wemby on the same team, and De'Aaron Fox too, for that matter. Actually. But I don't think anyone else there really has a legitimate shot at him. But overall, I think the Jazz would be the best fit out of all of those teams, other than like a Philly, say, where you could just plug him in, see what you can get for Paul George if there is anything, take him for a bag of Lay's chips on the sale rack or something.
Yeah, he could fit in with San Antonio as well. He could obviously fit in the Mavericks as well. But I don't know if he would fit with the Rockets, though, that I saw there. I don't know if he would fit there because they got Amin Thompson that, apparently he's shown out this past postseason.
He's their guy going forward. It's him and Şengün that are there too. Before this year, it was going to be Jalen Green and Şengün were going to be their two key cogs in the rebuild. However, that's changed, and it's going to be Amin Thompson. He really took a quantum leap this year, and yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they play out as well. But yeah, back to a team like Charlotte too. I'm not a fan of Charlotte. I think that they have a lot of issues that kind of go outside of basketball, and they haven't hit on a good coach in a while. They haven't really been relevant hardly at all, with exception to the one LaMelo Ball clip you get every couple games and the third game that he plays all the time. I just have a lot of questions about them. I don't really think, out of all the teams here, them and the Wizards are probably the two worst fits, specifically because those are teams that can ruin top players rather easily.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting. I mean, we have a fire alarm going off right now. They doing a test, but
perfect timing, yeah.
Yeah, perfect timing, right? So now we should really look at the Pacers now. The Pacers are now favored. How should we really look at their series now?
The thing about Indy that's tough is we don't know what Cleveland's injury situation is going to be, I don't think. And a lot of what they do, especially in these next two games, because of how important they're going to be in Indy. Indy's such a tough place to win, regardless. Indy is like, if you know football in Texas, that's Indy with basketball. Basketball is like a second religion in Indiana, and it's so tough to win in that building. The Bucks have shown it. They've come close. They came really close in Game 5. However, they weren't able to get it done. The only team that was really able to truly take advantage of there was Boston last year, and that's just because Boston was basically a locomotive. But when you look at Cleveland, it all comes down to injuries, really. And they only won one of the regular season matchups against the Pacers as well. So this isn't even necessarily a thing where, it's just specifically because of injuries. We can't obviously 100% take regular season into effect, as the Bucks also were a Tyrese Halliburton game winner away from sweeping Indy during the regular season. However, it's really tough to win in Indy, and Cleveland's going to have to basically be perfect on the road here to even have a chance in this series. If you drop one game, your back is against the wall. And Indy has just been they're probably the most free-flowing team in this playoffs when it comes to ball movement. They're so unselfish. Tyrese Halliburton is the perfect facilitator for that offense. Rick Carlisle knows who to pick on defensively, especially if Evan Mobley is going to be out. I'm not sure what his status is as of right now, but they're going to be able to target whoever's in there for him. They had Sam Merrill starting the other day at one of the guard spots because both DeAndre Hunter and Darius Garland were also out. So they're just going to be able to target the weak link, much like how he did with Brook Lopez. And he knows how to get those guys simmered down as well. Even during a big run where it feels like someone's going to take the momentum away from the Pacers, Carlisle makes a good timeout, calms them down. They come back out, hit a couple shots, and boom, they're back in rhythm again.
Yeah, I think Tyrese Halliburton averaging like 9.2 assists this series. I mean, that sets it all apart. I mean, he gets off for like 20, then it's practically all wraps, in my opinion. But it'd be very interesting to see. They play tonight at 5 p.m. Eastern time. If I'm not, 5:30. I mean, 5:30, not 5:30. 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. And yeah, I mean, the best team in the land right now, the best team in the East is really at large for really in trouble right now. I mean, if they don't win tonight, the series is obviously over. Like,
the thing about Indy is they play so fast. It's really hard to truly put them away because every time you think you have an edge on them, they just go on a little 8-0 run on their own, and it's really deflating. And they're so good at just pushing the ball, keeping things unselfish, and they have that it factor at the end of the game too. They hit their clutch shots. Halliburton had that game winner against the Bucks where he was able to drive down the lane, get the layup. Then against Cleveland, say what you want about whether it's a lane violation. I don't really think that that's a major factor there because that there's lane violations on every play pretty much if you think about it. And he was able to step back, hit the three. He's got that it factor at the end of the game. And that's something where if you're a team like Cleveland, you got to be terrified. And you got to have them put away before that 2-minute mark. 10 plus points, because as both the Cavs and the Bucks have shown in this postseason, no lead is safe against a team like this. With how good they are on the press, with Nembhard and Nesmith, they're able to create those traps and make guys make errant passes, just bad decisions, and they're able to use their speed to just be able to get in there and get those steals, force turnovers in that last 2 minutes, and really just cause chaos that throws the team that's ahead on them out of whack.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting to see that. I think the outlier, the key is for at home is Pascal Siakam. So we're going to jump right into our last topic of the day, which is the NHL playoffs. The NHL has a serious threat as the Oilers are gaining confidence and surging right now. They are up 2-0 on the Golden Knights, and McDavid still hasn't scored since Game 3 of the LA series as an empty netter. And they're now on a collision course with, say, Toronto or Washington, who tied their series up last night. So as we look at the bracket, what stands out the most to you?
I mean, Edmonton's offense is so strong, just with all those top level attackers that they have. I'm pleasantly surprised in Toronto because they've kind of been regarded as the Cowboys of the NHL in the past, where they really struggle to get going. Jumping out to a 2-0 lead on the defending champs, who made some good moves, adding Brad Marchand at the deadline this year, especially, was one of them. They have one of the Tkachuk brothers on that team. Just being able to jump out in front and make a statement like that is really, really key for them, because those 2-0 leads, man, we've been talking about it with the NBA this whole time. They're tough to come back from, and Edmonton taking a 2-0 lead, I don't think I was expecting that either. And their offense, without McDavid really doing much of anything so far, that's really impressive on their end, because the Golden Knights are another one of those good teams. But then looking at that series between the Jets and the Stars, I don't really see a path for the Jets to get through that one. With how much they struggled with the Blues, who some argued shouldn't have even been in the postseason to begin with, just based on how the point system worked. The fact that they needed a goal right at the end to even send that to overtime against the lowest seed in the Western Conference was just kind of shows that there's some vulnerability there, despite how well they played in the regular season. And I think the Capitals moving down to that series, I think they're going to be fine there. I know there's a lot of people out there that believe in them, mainly because of the ride that they're taking with Ovechkin stealing that goal record from Wayne Gretzky earlier this season. A lot of people seem to think that he's going to get his second this year. So I got them in that series as well. I got Toronto. I got to switch over from Florida, unfortunately. That's who I had in this. I had a Stanley Cup rematch in my predictions that we did a couple weeks ago. I got the Stars in that series because they were able to steal a game on the road. And then I got the Oilers in that series as well. So it'll be Oilers versus Stars in the West, and then Leafs versus Capitals in the East.
Yeah, I think the personal biggest problem is probably if the Jets don't win tonight, they're going to be in serious jeopardy. I don't think they may not win the series if they don't win tonight. Obviously, this is a must-win for the Panthers as well. They're down 2-0. And I believe that, the best series right now is probably going to end up being the Capitals and the Carolina Hurricanes series. I mean, the way Ovechkin and them were playing and the way the Hurricanes went into Washington really sets up that it really sets up the series a lot, because now obviously the Hurricanes have home court advantage, and it'd be very interesting to see. And then you have the Oilers. Connor McDavid hasn't even scored a goal yet since Game 3 of the LA series, so they haven't even really got going yet, especially for McDavid. He hasn't even gotten going yet. So I think the Vegas Knights might lose the series because, well, when you lose both home games, it's hard to come back from. So you got Cleveland in that same situation with the basketball side, and it's going to be very tough. So
say that this is like the longest fire alarm of all time.
Yeah, so I mean, we probably
it just feels like it never stops. But man, that Edmonton team, like you said, Draisaitl is just so scary too. They have so much going for them in attack. It's so tough, especially when you get down 2-0, to come back in a series against a team like that. You lost the first game 4-2, then you lost game 2 5-4. So you've been giving up 4 to 5 goals every single one of those. If you can somehow, some way shut down that potent offense, that's the only way you're going to have a chance in a series like that, because you're not going to be able to outscore a team like Edmonton. You got to beat them defensively, really hunker down, and then hit them on the counter. Make sure that they're not really doing much of anything when they're in the box. Just limiting their opportunities and trying to create more for yourself off the counterattack, and just making sure that they're not getting those easy chances and getting out in front too. That's another thing. You got to jump out in front. If you can get up 1-2 goals to nothing, that's going to be huge for them for the rest of the way.
Yeah, that's true. I can actually finally think now. So, yeah, I mean, it's Scheifele is going to be the key definitely for the Winnipeg Jets, and I mean, could you imagine if the Winnipeg Jets went all the way to the final and Toronto have all Canadian Stanley Cup? That would be absolutely insane. But it's we look at the bracket again one last time. I do see a pathway for the Panthers to come back and win this series, but I also see a pathway of where they can lose in the gentleman's sweep because the way Toronto is playing.
Wasn't
Um,
it wasn't it against the Bruins 2 or 3 years ago? They came back, reverse swept them, or am I wrong about that?
you might be right. We
I think
have
they
to
came
probably
back
go
from
fact check
3-0.
that, but
I'm not sure if I'm remembering that correctly. I know they beat them when they were the lowest seed in the entire postseason, and the Bruins had that record-breaking regular season. I just didn't remember if it was 3-0 or if it was something else.
yeah, I think it was probably. I mean, yeah, we probably have to go back and look at it, but I believe it was something like that. So with that, we're probably going to jump into our final thoughts right away.
My final thought for today, the NFC North, I talked about it a lot on my Hawk Talk show this week. We had a
Mm.
fiery debate about it on Tuesday. It was a lot of fun. Guys were up out of their chairs yelling at each other. It was a good time. You could honestly rank them in any way, 1 through 4. I'm gonna disagree with you potentially, but I can't fault you for thinking the way that you do. If you put Minnesota at 1, that's maybe the one where I'm like, hold your horses a little bit, or Chicago at 1. But honestly, any of them besides Detroit, I think, could be 4. Any of them besides maybe Minnesota could be 1. And then those middle spots could be just straight interchangeable. I'm not going to argue if you have Green Bay at 3, if you have Green Bay at 2. Heck, if you even have Green Bay at 1, I'm not going to argue with you. I don't think Chicago finishes 4th this year. I think they get out of the basement. But other than that, it's such a toss up. Anything could happen. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but that's just kind of where I'm at.
Uh, if he was talking to my dad, he'd be screaming at you right now, saying the Bears are probably the best team in the division. But I just don't. I had to see it first. Uh, me being a Bears fan for so long and a Broncos fan, I need to see the. I need to see it. Like I can't. We play in two of the Broncos play in the hardest division, I believe, in all of football. Not the hardest division, but the hardest team in all of football. So winning the division is nearly almost is practically not impossible, but say probably 10% chance. But
They have they have a couple great coaches in the AFC West too, where it's
yeah, then you got the Raiders
they got
coming. Now you got the
Harbaugh and the
Chargers.
Chargers are looking a little scary this year. I'm not gonna lie. They're always that what if team kind of. But then obviously the Chiefs are just the Chiefs. And Andy Reid is such a good game manager. It doesn't matter how talented the roster is, they're gonna find ways to win.
Yeah, but when back to your thing about the Bears, I just need to see it first. I can't really go off of what off-season moves were done or what moves were made or things like that. I need to actually see it come together. Like until then, I'm still going to say the Bears are probably going to finish in last until I see the change. So
I want to ask you one question really quick before we hop off. Say they do struggle this year, they go say 6-11, 7-10, because that's really the lowest I could see them going. I can't see them finishing any worse than that. Who does it fall on? Poles, Johnson, the ownership, the players?
at that point, it's got to be how did Caleb Williams look? That's gonna have to be the like if they go 6-11, you got everything you need, bro. Like you got a run game. You got now. They supposedly say you got a line. You got wide receivers now. You got a coach. That's a competent coach. It's gonna be on Caleb Williams. Like if they go 6-11, this Caleb Williams played bad. Caleb Williams played like trash. That's simple. Or the offensive line failed him again. We I don't think they're gonna go below 6 wins, but if anything close to that, if they not even if they even have a 500 record, that's a failure because of what you did with the team this offseason. Now, that Colston Loveland pick is going to be very interesting to see because you already had a tight end. Now you run a two tight end set to where you could have used that number 10 pick to go get some linemen or DN or D tackle. So
From what I
It's going to be
saw,
a lot of proving to do this season.
I think that pick kind of showed me that they feel confident in what they have on both the D line and the O line because tight end, they already had. I don't want to say Cole Kmet is a top 10 tight end. I would say he's about middle of the pack, probably 15 to 20 is where I'd rank him in the league. They had a decent enough tight end to where it wasn't a glaring need. However, they must have seen the rest of the roster, especially the O line after the moves that they made, as complete for the most part. And they were able to use that as a bit more of a luxury pick on a skill player where they really thought they saw their guy. And Ben Johnson saw the vision with Loveland. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out, whether they use him as a Samuel Porta type potentially this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at this point, I just need the Bears to just do something right. Like, I really am interested. I'm really interested to see what Justin Fields does in New York. Um, see what he does with the Jets, with that new scheme, that new regime, and things like that. But really, obviously, everybody wants to see what the Browns are going to do with Shedeur Sanders. That's the NFL at this point. What Shedeur Sanders? What are they going to do with Shedeur Sanders? That's the NFL. That's all NFL news now.
Well, from what I saw, as of right now, Joe Flacco is leading in odds to start for them, but it's also so early in the year that they have 5 quarterbacks on their roster right now. So odds, 2 of them are probably going to get axed before the season starts. I don't know which ones it's going to be, but who says they don't even just cut Shedeur or throw him on the practice squad? I know that he might refuse to go to the practice squad. However, they did use a 3rd rounder on Dillon Gabriel and they used a 5th on him. So they're going to probably give a bit more preferential treatment to Dillon Gabriel in the locker room because they used extra capital on him. And they're probably going to be paying him a bit more money as well.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be very interesting to see. I believe it. Now, if they both look good, then you're going to probably have to end up making a decision. Are you going to keep Flacco or are you going to cut Kenny Pickett? Are you going to cut them two? Like, if they both look good, you're going to have a real decision to make because you can't let Deshaun Watson go because he's got too much money tied up.
Well, you could throw him on the PUP list as well, probably for the majority of the season, because he did suffer another setback with his recovery last year before the season even ended. He tore it in the middle of the season, and by the end, he had another setback. So there's a chance you just throw him on that list and forget about him until next year.
Could be. Could do that too. But my final thought would probably end up being I am now a softball player. I played slow pitch softball last night with my barber and his team and his buddies and a couple of his buddies and stuff. So I got to meet some new people and played softball and no longer a baseball player anymore.
How'd that go for you?
Struck out the first at bat because I was so used to seeing 90 and 88 to 95 miles per hour. I struck out the first at bat because I swung too fast and didn't let it travel, I guess, all the way deep enough. But I went 2 for 4, so.
Yeah, that's I'm sure that's an adjustment because you were on the Whitewater Club team that went all the way to the finals, weren't you?
I was on the Whitewater team when I first got there, but then I went on the club team.
Okay. Well, I meant like, didn't the club team make like a really deep run in the playoffs or something like that?
Yeah, I did. Now I was on the national championship team that went there. Yeah, I was on that team. So.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a great experience, but it's probably a huge adjustment to get used to those meatballs down the middle a little bit.
And it's like floating in too, so it's like I think it's similar to what we had at Whitewater, where it was slow pitch and you just
like intramurals almost.
Yeah, intramurals. Yeah, like the slow pitch intramurals that we had. So it's kind of similar to it, but at least the kids at Whitewater put a little more like speed onto it, not just lob it up there. So
when it's coming in at 10 miles an hour or something like that.
Yeah. So, well, this comes to the end of the show. And subscribe, like, share, and comment. Follow our podcast page on other platforms. On Spotify, we have an Instagram and TikTok handles. We have the podcast page all in the description box below. We do post real shorts of the show, polls and question boxes, and you can always DM us on things you'd like to have answered or comments you may have. We dive into other topics like music, film, travel, or life outtakes as well. we'll start to get back into that sometime next week as the sports scene is going to slow down a little bit as we get further and further along in the playoffs. So, with that, this has been Shot of Sports, and we'll see you on Tuesday.
Yeah, take care. See you next week.
See you next week.